Hello, folks. Welcome to Between Awesome and Disaster. This is your host, Will Carey. Hope you're staying safe. Hope you're staying inside and wearing a mask whenever you can, because that is how we're going to get through this, despite any kind of conspiracy theory or anything else dictated by our federal government. Those are the minimal things that you can do and that I'm doing. Can you tell I watched Contagion last night? I'm very fired up now about this topic today, and it kind of plays into a lot of what we're talking about on the show. My guest, we have a returning guest today on the show, and my guest today is a comedian, Mike Mercadal. Mike was an early guest on Between Awesome and Disaster, and we wanted to talk again, not only because we haven't seen each other in a while, but because of the, comedy effectively being dead right now, or live comedy at least. But Mike's also an essential worker during this time of the COVID-19 pandemic. Mike works at a hospital and was exposed and recovered from the virus. So I thought it was pretty pressing to kind of get some of this information and discuss some of this stuff from somebody who's actually, I'm not going to say on the front lines, but is very immediate proximity to this pandemic, I think. And Mike's also a really good friend of mine. And it was great to get to talk with him, and I'm glad that he's recovered and doing well. So we're going to get right into it today. If you enjoy this, I have over 160 other episodes for you to enjoy as well. And I appreciate you guys listening to the show, because for me, this podcast is how I've continued to be creative during quarantine. So I appreciate you guys being here and all of the kind words on my recent episodes. I've been making the best of my time here in the apartment. So I'm glad that you're here for it as well. I hope you guys are staying safe, and I'll talk to you guys at the end here. And let's go to my chat with comedian and essential worker Mike Mercadal.
You're golden.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good to hear from you, man, because I haven't seen you, and it was a while even before all of this happened that we had really spent some time. But I feel like even though I've been quarantined for 2 months, you've been working every single day.
Yeah, honestly, like not much has changed for me. It's so weird to say that. But I work in. We're live, right? We're good to go.
Yeah, we're live. We're
doing the show.
We're doing the thing.
No, man, it is not much has changed other than like the fact that once I'm out of work, I can't do anything. For the listener, I work at a hospital, so I'm not much has changed. In fact, I've been working more, I guess. It's odd. I don't necessarily feel isolated until I start to like FaceTime with my friends that are literally in the same city as me. Like I don't feel it if I FaceTime my family back home in Miami.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel it when I talked on the phone to whoever. Like I feel it more when like I'm playing Dungeons and Dragons with a mutual friend of ours, Alex Murray,
mm-hmm.
and our D&D group. Like we're literally in the same city. We were playing around a table from each other, and I miss that. It's odd. It's tricky.
I know. I miss I drastically did not realize how much of my day-to-day life in New York City is being out, even if I'm not like at shows or at open mics, or like the sheer amount of like running around and spending time with people outside of my apartment is staggering.
I didn't realize how. Like I'm being a little facetious when I say my life hasn't really changed. I mean, I'm going to work and stuff like that, but the world is different when I go out there. But also like the fact that certain things are taken away, like the fact that it's springtime, like in earlier when it was cold and it was like freezing and all that stuff, it wasn't necessarily that big a deal because I would just be inside anyway, whatever.
Sure.
But now that the weather's getting better, the fact that I can't do some of the things even that I would take for granted. Like I used to go kayaking. There's like the boathouse, the Long Island City Community Boathouse
Yeah.
on the East River. I used to go. I mean, you've seen picture I post. I used to go kayaking with them pretty much like like a couple times a month on the weekends, and you kayak up and down the East River. Super fun, very relaxing. It's really nice. But I don't know. I'm not saying I would be doing that every weekend right now, but the fact that I can't makes me want to do all of these things even more. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's like you, yeah,
yeah, totally. Like just knowing that you have the freedom to do that or not to do it, and then just the your mindset kind of changes when you can't, like when that is no
yeah.
longer an option. I wanted to ask you, being that you work in the healthcare field, what was your experience of like did you see this coming before it actually became the world stopping event that it is?
Honestly, there was a moment where I, okay, well, not to be political, but the response from the government, from the White House, is like a travesty, right? This
Mm-hmm.
didn't have to be what it is now. We had a lot of stuff in place, and in my heart, I feel, like I'm a brains person, but in my heart, I feel like had we had a better response, had we isolated, had more testing available, and like things like other countries, because I have my family in Europe and in Germany. My stepbrother lives in Munich. He was
Mm-hmm.
telling me about his responses, and I found myself jealous of that response. But even early on, there was doubt of how severe this would really be, and what the real like extent of it was, and wash your hands. And I was guilty of diminishing the use of masks a little bit at the beginning, but like just take the common precautions, use the mask. That it's not the ultimate protector. And the improper use of PPE, I was very big on like, there you're doing yourself a disservice by using your mask and gloves wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You're making it worse.
Yeah.
So I was telling people to just like, whatever. Then when it really started to spread, I was like, oh shit, this is different, because no one knew. We even in the hospital with the doctors, we were talking about, oh, this is gonna be bad. This is gonna be this is gonna be tricky. This is gonna be tricky. Like, it was, as new information kept coming out, it was just like, oh, this is worse than we thought. Worse than we thought. We kept hearing that. Oh, it's worse. The virality of it is worse than we thought. The spread worse than we thought. The symptoms worse than we thought. And then you started seeing all the stuff from Italy, and that was a big eye opener for a lot of like people I worked with directly, when they started showing the videos of those like ICUs in Italy. it
Yeah.
was it was weird. It was super tricky. Like the first time they showed people pronation is when they would position intubated patients on their stomachs
Mm-hmm.
for like the better ventilation into the lungs.
Yeah.
um I had not really seen that used on like a widespread case. And boy, was that unnerving when they showed that video. It looked like a movie. It looked like it looked like a sci-fi movie.
Oh yeah, like
Yeah.
the parallels to like Contagion, or only because it's on my mind, like Resident Evil or something like that.
Right,
We're
right. Yeah.
we're not at zombies yet, but like all of the lead up is like it's cinematic, and this is a kind of moment. I've had those moments a lot, especially during this presidency, where I feel like, oh, this is what the bad president in like the PG-13 action movie does that causes a
Yeah.
crisis.
We're starting pretty heavy, but honestly, like they're like we're both comedians. We should probably be funny. We are in the shitty montage at the beginning of every apocalypse movie. We're in that one where they show like news clips, and then they show like found
Sure.
footage street. Like we're in that, the first 5 minutes of Planet of the Apes, the Planet of the Apes movie. You know what I'm talking about?
I
We're
do.
in
I
that
do.
shit. And the thing is that when you watch it, you're like, oh, this is so stupid. How could things get so bad? And we're like in the middle of it. And then there's people that want to kill their grandparents for a haircut. And you're like, oh, right. We're morons. We're idiots. You know what I mean? Like it's so stupid. But like, it's odd when you're conscious of the moment that you're in a moment of history. You're in a moment of historical significance. Where it's odd to have this. It's such a slow moving pace that you can, for the lack of a better like term, have that realization in real time. You know what I mean? Like we are in this moment, and then people are
Yeah.
going to forget. It's going to be normalized. People are already bored of the coronavirus, and that's why they want to go outside. Like just because you're bored of it
Yeah.
doesn't mean that the epidemic's over. But holy crap! Like even in healthcare, we're starting to see like the diminishing, the plateau. You know, like the decline.
Mm-hmm.
We're starting to see that, and we're all expecting kind of like a stair step down, where like it's going to go down, and then as soon as some section of society opens up, there's going to be more exposures. So the people who have been inside are now outside. Some of those people are going to get it, and then it'll
Yeah.
level off or come. You know, like it'll do like a stair step. It's going down. They'll open something up. It'll shoot back up a little bit. Then it'll continue to trend down. Hopefully, that's the goal. But who knows, man? Like it's so everything is so unknown, and the federal response has been garbage.
Oh yeah.
I've been having at the hospital. We're all having lunch with Andrew Cuomo every day.
Oh
We're
really?
just yeah, we're all just sitting there watching him on TV and like, what does he say today? Huh? You know, we're like, what is he going to tell us about our future? You know?
Yeah, I love when we've started referring to him as the acting president in this apartment
Oh, for sure.
because he's just actually displaying leadership and like the kind of like no nonsense like it's irresponsible to be playing basketball right now, stop doing it, like that kind of vibe. I really appreciate. Did you see that
Yeah.
the Bundesliga, the German soccer
Yo.
league, came back and two players have already tested positive?
And one of the coaches already had to go into isolation because he went out for toothpaste like a moron. I can't remember. I
Exactly.
don't know who it was. It's one of even that's just goes to show you, even with the pure German efficiency of handling a pandemic and the rules and regulations, which as a German culture they are very clear to abide by.
Yes.
There's still room for infection. Imagine if like the United States is run by the three fucking stooges. The United States is like the
Yeah.
Keystone Cops version of a government. Then of course millions more people like we off per cap like we're the worst. We this has been an abject failure. But I do feel my this is a little personal thing. My brother sent me Bayern Munich
Uh-huh.
team gear like a few years ago.
Uh-huh.
So I have their gear from I've worn it to and when we go to NYCFC games I think I've
Uh-huh.
worn it.
Yeah, yeah.
And now that it's literally the only sport on television, I feel like the coolest boy in school, like aha, or like the hipster one that's like, oh, I've been wearing this shit before, it was cool, you know, like that kind of thing.
Yeah,
Because now
totally.
ESPN is doing like you could hear the salivating on ESPN, like, oh, we have a live sporting event to show. We couldn't rely on the Last Dance anymore. We needed something live.
Exactly. And South Korean baseball, the time zones are all off. Yeah, because before
Yes.
that, I think the only other sports that were happening, live sports that were happening, was South Korean baseball. And I just discovered because of last week tonight did a great piece about how sports can reopen
Yeah, that was awesome.
the competitive marble racing, which I think
The
I'll
Yella Icelandic Marble League or whatever it's called. Such a good source of like levity, but information have been like I could give it like I used to watch the clips on YouTube of Seth what's his name,
Seth
Seth
Meyers.
Morris. Seth Meyers. Why did I say Seth? Oh, Seth Morris is the guy who does Bob Duca. Seth
Yes.
Meyers and like Stephen Colbert and all that stuff. Jimmy Fallon. Their Tonight Show shit is unwatchable. Is unwatchable from home. All of that stuff is unwatchable. The only one that I've been getting like a kick out of is the Last Week Tonight because it's basically the same show. It's nothing. Not like nothing has changed. He's still
Yeah.
just standing in front of a camera. They put the thing up, or but I've like that's where I'm getting. I can't watch any of the other official stuff. It's odd how so many people, so many like legit, quote unquote, legit people have become just straight up podcasters.
Yeah,
Like literally, everything's a podcast now.
or like a YouTube show that a teenager could do in their basement in Ohio or the Midwest. Like it's
Yeah,
really when you strip away all of the layers and all the production and the money, SNL and what we could do
Oh,
is
right.
not that different
They are
right now.
literally the same. Not even not that different. The same. The exact same.
Right.
Literally, I'm watching. So one of my, I'm rewatching Community, right? That show, Community.
Oh,
I
that
love
show's
that
great.
show.
So good.
So funny. And just recently, the Joel McHale and Ken Jeong, they're doing a podcast from their house, and it's and also like the ladies from The Office. They had started doing it before the quarantine, and the
Mhm.
dudes from Scrubs. They're all doing like these rewatch podcasts because they're getting
Yep.
in on the podcast heat. But it's interesting to see how like how producerial they all are, and how they overcome, like how willing they are to put out like a bad product. Like I had more quality control over my podcast when I was doing Zeros on Heroes in terms
Sure.
of audio quality than a lot of these quote unquote mainstream professional like broadcast things. You know
Right.
what I mean?
I
Like
do.
right
Yeah.
now we're recording, a little behind the curtain things. Right now we're recording.
Mhm.
I have my VO set up from my house. You have your recording set up from your house. The stuff we're using is better than when Jimmy Fallon interviews some fucking rich celebrity on their iPhone.
I
You know
agree.
what I mean?
Yeah, no, I do cuz like they they don't have microphones, and granted that's, maybe they didn't anticipate they were going to have to be doing tons of media appearances during this
Amazon
time.
still works, baby. You can order shit right now.
Oh, it
There's no
does.
excuse. No, they could put shit in a truck and drive it from their studio to their house, and they could literally do like a little setup, wipe it all down, and really take care to look like and that's the thing, is that there's people that are doing it right, and then there's people that are doing it wrong. It's interesting to see who's cares about the outcome of their product. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like I feel like a closer look, Seth Meyers' like recurring political segment, that I think is still pretty good from
Yes.
his attic. But I agree with you, and that's also that leads into why I haven't been super hungry to try to jump on these, like to jump on Zoom shows or open mics. I mean, I would if someone offered, of course, but um, when live comedy, the actual everything around it is, because I think a lot of people think of stand up as just very simple thing. That's why I think so many non-comedians always get the, "Oh, you're a comedian, tell me a joke" reaction. But when you
Right.
take away that kind of community bonding experience that you're having with the crowd when you're on stage and people are there, when you take all that away and you're just doing jokes to a muted Zoom call.
It's got, I'll tell you what, we Alex Murray and I, we were talking about it. It's big podcast energy. Like don't book it. Don't try to promote it as a show. Like just record podcasts. Just like like don't lie to the people. Like, oh, like if you want to go on Instagram live and do a live interview, like that's a thing. But
Yeah.
a Zoom show that you have to pay to get into is
Yeah.
ridiculous. Like this is, I understand everybody's trying to make do, but like market it as such. Like even if you were going to do something like what SNL is doing, like shooting little sketches around your house and then putting them up in like a recorded show.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That would be more appropriate for the platform. I guess that's what I'm saying. Your show has to be tailored to the platform, not the other way around.
Yeah, I
You
agree.
can't you can't make Zoom into. Oh, you remember the first week that they did SNL from home?
I did. Yeah, I watched some of it.
On Weekend Update, they had um, Michael Che and whatever doing the jokes and to the other people on the call, like on a call, and it was like this odd, weird smattering of laughter. It was like doing a bar show for like six people. It
Uh-huh.
was so unnerving, and right after the first one, they just cut it because it was like that's ridiculous. So like basically, you have to tailor, like that's one of those things that always bothered me about like the comics that would be like, oh, that's the audience, I'm better than the audience, I'm smarter than them, and they just don't get my material and stuff. You have to be able to tailor your performance to the situation, to your stage, to your mic, to your crowd, to your whatever. Still be true to yourself, but that doesn't mean you can't mold it into the shape that it needs to be. You know what I mean? These Zoom shows are always strike me as almost doing more harm than good for people. Like I tuned into one and it was unwatchable. There were people talking over each other. There was no etiquette for
Mm-hmm.
what, there was no like established etiquette. Like as a comic, if you do your set, you go to back of the room and you start talking shit with your friends, you're the asshole. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're a jerk. Everybody knows that you got to just get the fuck out of the room. If you're gonna make noise, don't distract. Blah 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 blah. And it's an established thing.
Yep.
But on these Zoom calls, on these quote unquote Zoom shows,
Uh-huh.
there's no kind of established process yet. So it's like it's mayhem. It's unlistenable. It drives me crazy. I can't do it. I can't do it.
I know. I don't know if you saw this. This made me scared for the future of live comedy, and not in the traditional like, oh well, everyone doing arenas is going to do theaters. Everyone doing theaters is doing clubs. What got me nervous is I saw an article about there was a I think it was in the Netherlands, a Dutch singer songwriter. He did a concert. He did a drive-in concert, so everybody was stayed in their cars, and he was on stage and he just played for an audience of people in their cars. I don't want anyone to get the idea that doing a stand-up comedy show like that would go well, because if you think a rowdy table Friday night second show is bad, just imagine when you anchor the crowd and you have just a cacophony of horns just
right. Just like, so I was walking my dog the other day. Bang, bang. That's so fucking funny.
Write a chapter about that, Judy Carter. How do you plan for that?
I don't know. Look, it's all going to come back in some form of. This is literally, like there's a lot of this right-wing propaganda about being angry about worker bailouts and non-essential workers getting more money than you would get if you got unemployment, and unemployment, you're making more money than if you were working, and blah 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 blah. How about this? It's the capitalism of comedy. The ones that survive will be the stronger ones. Like the people who really want it. Like there've already been stories of people who were like, yeah, I had to move back home. I had to move back home. I had to move back home. I, of course, am very, very lucky that I can continue my job and work. And I'm
same.
I mean, lucky in the sense like that I have a job, but also unlucky in the sense that I got fucking COVID from my job. You know what I mean?
Right. I didn't even bring that up yet. I think you're the first. I think you're the first person I've talked to, Mike, that on the show at least that had COVID. Now, were you actually like officially diagnosed, or was it just like everyone knows? Like, if it looks
I'm sorry, because I'm a healthcare worker. I work in a hospital. I had access to certain things before a lot of other people did in terms of testing, because ironically enough, they weren't going to test me. I'm not going to say the name of the organization, God forbid. I don't want to get in any trouble, but
sure.
The employee health people were like, oh, we're just going to operate on the assumption that you're positive. And I'm like, that's our, I was like, fuck, like, all right, fine. But I was also quarantined with my girlfriend. My girlfriend's parents are both highly immunocompromised, well, or high risk. Like my girlfriend's dad has COPD, and my girlfriend's mom is in chemo and has cancer. That the trifecta of bad news.
Totally.
And then she got sick right on the heels of me, and I was like, no, I can't not get tested. So I had to like force them to test me, and I was positive on the swab, and I got the thing. Ironically, it was one of the FDA unapproved, non-FDA approved tests, but it was positive. And then just recently, I was back to work in a week. I am supremely lucky that my girlfriend and I are both supremely lucky that we didn't get like
the worst case scenario for it.
I hate to say it, but like the real COVID. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of people like me who it's like scales of luck, tiered luck, like it's not just good luck versus bad luck. Like I have good luck in different areas. Good luck that I still have my job. Basically, I can pay all my bills. I still have my health insurance. I'm good. Bad luck in the sense that I was in a high risk environment and I got the disease.
Sure.
Good luck in the sense that it only affected me mildly. Bad luck in the sense that I gave it to my girlfriend. Good luck in the sense that only she got it mildly. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of like how I've been weighing out my entire quarantine. Is like it's good and bad. I'm looking at the good things as good and the bad things as bad. And when I got tested the first time, it was kind of like my girlfriend lost her sense of smell and taste. And that was a good sign. That was like a good thing because we're walking around now feeling very kind of almost, it's wrong to say, but bulletproof. We have the antibodies. We don't know what it means,
Right.
but we feel good about what happened.
Hmm.
We got it and it was not that bad. And now we can feel like we have some defense to it, you know?
Right. There's less that kind of like there's a lot of fear and anticipation if you don't have it and it's just kind of still swirling out there because despite all our best efforts, like people are still getting it. But then to have and then to like
Yeah.
kind of like surviving a trap on Saw, you're like, congratulations. You feel
It's survivor's guilt.
yeah.
I have like that's how I've been telling people like I feel like I have a little survivor guilt because I was fine and I know like directly I know like people that were like lost family members. I lost very close like a sibling and a
Hmm.
parent and I know people who yeah and all over the world too, not just in the United States, but and then I am walking around, you know, it's like those people who survive a car accident or a bus crash or a train derailment that they're like,
Hmm.
why did I live and why did everything go well for me and then not others? And I am actually, ironically enough, in the hospital, that's extra potent because
Sure.
I'm seeing like I'm face to face with how bad it is.
Yeah.
That's also probably why I've been so angry at all of social media and why I'm watching old series that I love on TV
Yeah.
because I'm
Yeah.
so fucking mad at all of these morons, you know?
Yeah, I know, and especially because I was talking to my mom who lives in a pretty rural part of Maryland. They have I think under 300 cases right now,
Mm,
and she lots of her family, like her sister and her friends from when she was a teacher, are with people that are of this mindset that like, oh, the media's blowing it out of proportion. I haven't heard anybody who's gotten it. I'm like, well, you might Noah Savage, he's a comedian, he got it. Brian Yang, he got it. Mike Mercadal, my friend, they all got it, and luckily they're fine. It's that kind of stuff that really makes me. I might have said I might have used the phrase "tell Fred to suck a bag of dicks" uh,
yeah. Yeah, yeah,
a
yeah.
couple
It's
times,
like
and
it inspires rage because of we've reached a point where you remember like during the presidential election and everyone was like, "Oh, he doesn't really believe what he's saying." You know what I mean? Like, "Oh, Trump he's playing mind games. He's not really like that. He's just saying what he's riling up people and blah blah blah. It's harmless. The policy the Republicans will keep him in check and blah 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 blah." Here
mm-hmm,
we are 4 years later and it's literally killing people to
yeah,
believe this guy. To
yeah,
literally, I have a tons of medical professional friends in Florida and here in New York that after that whole disinfectant thing, people were like,
yeah.
"No, no one's dumb enough to do that," and I'm like, "Are you? Have you? Look, I'm not to insult rural Maryland, but like any place that has a lack of connection and diversity and information and basically an anti-elite like they view the coastal elites as like these they're anti-American because they're intellectual. The anti-intellectualism of it all is astonishing, where it's like we don't believe this Anthony Fauci guy, we trust this game show host with a fake tan. It's like what, you know, it's 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 infuriating at this point that people still like, you know, believe it. You
I
know, it's bonkers,
I know,
bonkers.
I know. To me it's like watching. Like when we used to go to soccer matches together because
Yeah,
Mike and I've
yeah.
turned
I'm
I've
the
convert
stand-in wife,
yeah
stand-in girlfriend.
standing girlfriend. I've turned turning Mike into a Major League Soccer fan, um, you know, or maybe even like baseball or football, any kind of like very slovenly looking sports fan who's like, "Hey, you bum, what are you doing?" And like as if they know better. Like
Right,
to
right.
me, everybody that's critical or minimizing uh, this thing, those are spectators, and to me, like they're on the stands of history, they're in the
Yes,
bleachers, and I feel
a good
like
analogy.
And I feel like we and when I say residents of I'll say residents of New York, especially in other major cities, we are on the field in the shit,
Mm-hmm.
like actually experiencing it
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and having to
And
like
not only
deal with it.
and not only experiencing it, but like dealing with the how do I say this? Not the PTSD of it all, but like the causation of everything. Like we are seeing what works and what doesn't, what's happening, like what we're seeing the results.
Yes.
Not only are we, like we're seeing the results firsthand. We're not hearing them from a news organization. We're not hearing them from our neighbor who knows some guy. Oh my God! Early on, there was a lot of WhatsApp messages going around and Facebook shit. Like Facebook mommy groups sending random ass stuff. Like how
Yeah,
like, oh,
yeah.
my friend in FEMA was telling me that they're going to institute the martial. It'll be martial law and blah blah blah. And that's what it was before the quarantine, right? There
Yeah.
was a lot of like rumor going on about all this stuff, and there were so many messages going around. And I think there's been a real lapse in, well, who the fuck is telling you? You know what I mean? Like, oh, I heard from this guy in FEMA, and I'm like, who? What guy in who? Oh, my friend sent it to me. My friend sent me this. So is your friend the guy in FEMA? No, his friend. Well, then you ask him where, like go down the chain. And I
Yeah.
remember like I had like a simple Google search showed that it originated with some lady and they fucking made it up. Literally, like it was they
Yeah.
some newspaper went and they followed the because they were tracking essentially the a viral post. They did like a tracking and testing and tracing of a viral post, and it's ironic to me how a major pandemic is being made worse by viral misinformation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like viral, like the posts that people are spreading that are fucking nonsense are spreading faster because we're not doing the things to properly quarantine ourselves from dumb fucking information. You know what I mean? You should
Totally.
quarantine yourself from stupid. You have to quarantine yourself from stupid in a pandemic that quarantines you from actual death.
Yeah.
Being stupid in this pandemic can't kill you.
Yeah, 100%. And what's being asked of you, if we're painting broad American stereotypes, I feel like the rest of the world would think, "Oh, Americans just have to like hang out and watch TV and if you and only go out to eat." That to get food. Those are like the three biggest American stereotypes and we just can't fucking do it. And the kind of stuff that the most vocal and maybe it's astroturf, maybe it's being blown out of control and is all being fed by like rich Republicans who just want
Well, it's proven that
who
a
just
lot
care
of that
money.
is, yeah.
Yeah, um, it makes you wonder. It makes you wonder. Is like, do those people not have like friends? Don't you have a
Yes.
friend? Don't you have like a friend you can reach out to? Have you watched anything new recently? Can you talk about that? Like what is missing from your life that this is what the level that you're at is conspiracy
Right. Like,
theories around this.
what don't you have Amazon to get anything you want to your house, which speaking of, like problems in modern society, like it's not healthy. Like I would like someone called me a hypocrite because like, oh, you ordered from Amazon, you ordered delivery to your house, you ordered this, that, and the other. And I'm like, you're 100% right. But that doesn't necessarily mean like, if I'm drowning, I can't, it's like, oh, well, I went swimming a couple other times, and now I'm drowning. I can't complain. You know what I mean? Like, fuck, like,
that's
like,
that's
what are you
that's
talking about?
right.
Like, yeah, I know how to swim, but I'm hurt now and I can't. So, like, I'm still going to drown. Like the idea
Right.
of
Yeah.
Amazon, like Amazon and all the Jeff Bezos stuff is fucking wild. It's really showcasing how little, and I was trying to explain this to someone, but like, even people in the United States who think they're rich are aren't even a blip on the radar to the people who are really rich. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, oh, I own my own business. I own my own house. I own a rental property. I own this. I own that. It's like, yeah, you don't own civilization. There are people wealthy, so wealthy that they own civilization that they can buy. The second you can buy a politician, that's when you're wealthy. That's when you're
Exactly.
rich.
Yeah, it's like
This,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like that Chris Rock joke from way back.
Oh
Rich
yes,
versus wealth. Shaq is rich. The guy who signs his check is wealthy.
was wealthy.
Yeah, like
Yes.
when you are like when you're buying like when you're so rich that you're establishing like children that you haven't had yet, like jobs
Yeah.
and political appointments and the ability to be immune from ever facing consequences. Like I've been rewatching Scandal, and there's an early episode that deals with like a rich white guy who just he rapes a lot, and he's just dished out money, and he's like, oh, just give
Yeah.
it, and he's never had to like face the realization of what he's doing until Olivia Pope convinces his mom to call the cops on her son, and the whole time he's just like, um, not to delve too deep into internet stuff, but if there's that classic like entitled white guy who's just like, mom, what's going on, as he's being handcuffed and led
Yeah.
away.
Yeah. Yeah.
It makes me think a lot
It's
of
there's so many people now. First of all, now I'm pissed because I was gonna start writing a bit about that, but I didn't. Fucking forgot about that Chris Rock bit. Damn it.
I know. Well, well,
Uh,
well. If I can say something real quick, when we had a call, you and me and my fiance, because our wedding has been postponed.
yeah, I know.
um,
Yeah, it's such a bummer, dude. And you guys have been really kind of funny and like taking it with a light heart. I'm sure it's very hard for you guys, but it's been fun. It's been funny to like, commiserate with you about it because
yeah,
it does suck, and I'm sorry you're going through that.
it does suck. The silver lining that I, for myself at least, is that I know we're gonna figure something else out, and I've just started wearing the ring. Uh,
You guys are living your lives together. This is all just part of the pomp and circumstance of it all. You guys are established. You guys have fully committed to each other. You just need to do it in front of your friends.
yeah, our friends and then a city clerk over Zoom in a couple months.
That never happened.
The earliest date we could get was in July, so it's
Jesus.
even that part even got delayed.
Oh, bummer, dude.
But
I totally thought that happened already.
um, I will let you know, and then our venue closed permanently. So keep an eye out for our new venue
Yeah.
information sometime
Oh
this
my
year.
goodness.
But
That's what
we'll.
you get for making your wedding invitations airline tickets, because that shit always gets delayed. They said, okay, listeners, he sent out a lovely themed wedding invitation that were like
It looked like an
eh,
airline ticket.
yeah, it looked like a boarding pass, and you're flying to the destination, and your captain speaking and all that shit, and it was very cute, very nice. I love all that stuff.
Very.
I love a good theme, I love a good graphic design. And then it's like, yeah, every flight I've ever been on has been delayed or canceled, so you did it to yourself, buddy. You brought this on yourself.
Oh, that's fucking funny, dude. That's the kind of the joke we've been making here.
Yeah,
We've
yeah.
been making here as well. But what I was gonna say is talking about bits about this,
Oh yeah.
because I've had a hard time like thinking of really topical stuff, because I've mostly been doing this podcast, and I've gotten I recorded an EP that I've been wanting to do of music
Dude,
that I'm
so
really
cool, man. I
that
love I love that you're it's first of all the podcast, congratulations. I love, you're one of my favorite people, man. I like I know we're on a mic and all that stuff, but
dude,
you
likewise.
like when we talked last time, like when we were talking on the like FaceTime, I didn't want to perform. I didn't want to do a Zoom. I just posted like, hey, who wants to chat? Like who wants to talk? And you were right there, and I was like, yeah, the perfect. And
Yeah.
I'm so happy that you're still doing the podcast and the band Bright Ugly, right?
Yes, Bright Ugly's my band.
So like so fun, man. It's so good and it's poppy aggressive. It's like it's really fun, man. I dig it all.
Thank you,
I
dude. I
I, I
appreciate that.
I'm like happy. I'm like it's like I have no authority over you in any way, but I'm like proud of you. That's great.
Thank you, man. It makes me really feel good to say that. And you're one of my favorite people too. And I it was so great to get to talk to you, and I'm glad that you're okay, that you're healthy again,
Yeah,
and that
that
you're
was nice to check in with people after I got sick. Yeah.
yeah. But the thinking of like funny bits about this, I loved how we came up with two key topics, listener. If you're listening to this now or after this is all passed and we can remember, um, for some reason, big companies like Amazon and Grubhub and FedEx have money to make these very emotional looking commercials about how their employees are heroes and how appreciative they are. And Verizon's another.
Yeah.
Instead of
So
making
fast,
the commercial so quickly,
so quick. It was like 1 week to the net. We're in these trying times. Boom! Like when the hell did they make all of these? How do they film it? So
I,
fast.
I know they just called up Gary and it was like, Gary, do we have B-roll of people working? It was like, yeah. Do we have like an inspiring piano loop? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, all right, send it, put it, slap it together.
No,
Um,
don't send video of our staff. Our warehouses are like fucking prisons. Give me that like stock footage of a nice warehouse. Give me stock footage of a nice slap our stuff on our logos on the box digitally. Spend all the money on producing this shit and buying stock footage, and crank that shit out now.
yeah, and I think this hits especially home for you, given that you are an essential worker during this time. Just
Essential.
the amount, the number of times that you've been called a hero, and oh, and I wanted to ask you this. So you're a healthcare worker. Did you feel like really appreciated with that Blue Angels flyover that you probably were inside for?
I was doing my goddamn job. That's what I was doing. Oh, did you enjoy that Blue Angels flower? That was not for me. That was not for nobody. That was for like here's the thing. It's very nice that people want to recognize us and other people. It's not, and here's the thing, not to sound ungrateful, but it's healthcare workers, we were the most prepared. We
Right.
are prepared for this sort of thing. Every hospital has a contingency. In fact, my organization handled our supplies very well. This, like the stuff from other facilities got shipped to the busier facilities in the city so that they could have PPE. And the testing the development of these testing processes were very fast. Everything was handled remarkably well. We are geared for that. That's our job to handle these health crises.
Right.
The guy that delivers your seamless on his electric scooter is not. That guy is doing a harder job than whatever it is I'm doing right now. Yeah, I'm more close to the danger, but I have the gear. You know what I mean?
Right. That
The
guy
guy,
does not have the gear.
yeah, the supermarket worker, that person who does not get health insurance for doing their job is still doing their job, is the guy you should be like. It's amazing to me how many people are still shitting on those people as like less than, it's like my socialism muscles are like cranked up to 1,000. Like I'm just so like pissed at how like especially when billionaires are trying to put us back to work, and then it's like, oh, so you're trying, so basically you're flat out saying that the worker makes you your money, not you. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
you don't make your money off of the business, you make your money off of the workers who work in that business. You know what I mean? It's
Y-
all fucking crazy. But they kept
yeah.
calling us heroes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a direct correlation to being called a hero, and also that it's your calling. That was another big one. That,
Right.
oh,
Right.
you're born for this, you're made of stronger stuff, you're a hero, you're gonna reach out, you would be doing this for free. And then it's like, wait, that last one, not really. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it's still just a job. They're like, yeah, you would volunteer to do this if you couldn't. Who's telling you this?
Yeah.
Big corporation. What news organization is doing that? And then it's literally this, like, that when they call you a hero, that mean when they start calling you a hero and you weren't always called a hero before, you're about to get fucked. You are about to get fucked. They are softening you up for that kill. They basically fatten you up like a little piggy, and then they're gonna come and you're fucked, because
Right.
there's not going to be a sudden increase with, if the, like, again, if you can buy politicians, if you're wealthy, according to the Chris Rock bit, that politician that you paid for is not going to vote to raise minimum wage because he depends on you for his campaign funds.
Yeah.
So it's 1 + 1 = 2. It's not more complex than that. And then every other conspiracy theory that comes out of that, fine, but it starts with, why are these rich people buying politicians? Because they need people to work for them. And this is showing it off big time. Like all the people filing for unemployment,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be one of those things where, like, how do we pay for that? How do we pay? And we all knew, like Like there was, it's like I don't want to. Yeah, never mind. I don't want to
Well,
say that
well,
too.
I
It might be too aggressively political.
well,
But
I kind
as
of get
a
what you're
hero, you know, what I mean, I got to be heard. You know.
exactly, and I kind of feel that same way. Like when you get this, when you get like when you get when you get political, when you have people who make decisions based on influencing people's everyday lives, and they're making those decisions with uh, a lot of money in their pockets given to them by people who have a specific interest in things going their way, it cannot it cannot help but have things sway in that direction, which also
Right.
makes
Yeah.
me and it's obviously I've said this to Chelsea before, and I say, you know what? I think money in politics unfairly influences political decision making. And she's like, oh, you just figured that out? I don't
You're
think.
telling me. Wait a minute. You're telling me that a person who's bought and paid for will vote in a way that benefits the person who bought them and paid for them. Get out of town.
I
No way.
exactly. And then and because it costs so much money to run elections and to act to even run for president, I've started thinking about this idea that for a bit I want to do that. I don't think people should run for president. I think everyone should just have to be president
Yeah.
at some
Mandatory,
like
compulsory presidency.
compulsory presidency or compulsory leadership. Don't make it so where you know you're you are encouraging like the most ambitious to a psychotic level people who's like, my decisions affect people's lives. You want
Yeah.
people that are like, oh shit, my decisions affect people's lives. That's the kind of mentality you
Heavy,
want with
dude.
someone who understands the weight of that,
Yeah.
not someone who's so far many layers removed that they have no idea what real people in this country like who work every day and like are not like floating on generational wealth are
Right. Have you
experiencing.
heard, like it's like what's that guy's name? Cincinnatus. Have you ever heard of the Roman Emperor Cincinnatus?
I
I'm
don't
going to
think I
look him up
have.
because I don't want to get it wrong. Uh,
Was he in the time of Caesar and
yeah, Lucius Quintius Cincinnatus. Cincinnatus. He was a Roman statesman, whatever, and he was a legendary war figure, and then a figure of Roman virtue, right? Civic virtue. So he
uh-huh.
was like called to be brought into power to lead in a time of turmoil or whatever, in a time of war. And then as soon as the time of war was over, he's like, I'm done. I'll see you later. Like he gave power back to the republic, right? So
Right.
like that to me is like the ideal form of civility. Like you should the fact that there are Congress people that were around before the civil rights movement still, like that guy when Orrin Hatch was still around and all those
Yeah.
fucking old ass southern racists. The fact that those people are still in office shows the disconnect. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like there needs to be term like the president can't be president for life. That's a fucking king. You
Yep.
know what I mean? Like governors shouldn't be princes or dukes or whatever. It's not gentry. It's not like you can't have like yeah, it's fucked up. Like you can't have a forever situation. They've tried to replace that with the wealth system with it where it's like inherited wealth and estate taxes and all that stuff. Long story short, we have to murder and kill rich people and eat their food, eat their bodies for sustenance. Here's my 10-point plan. We're gonna no, just kidding.
I can't wait for this episode to
There's
be
only
entered as
40 of them.
evidence.
Yeah, right.
I know, like we could switch it if need be. I wanted to ask you also somewhat because we had talked a little. We've talked a little bit off mic about some of your plans for your for comedy
Yeah.
post this. I'll say I loved coming and doing unsung heroes at the Creek in the Cave.
I missed it.
I loved when I got to do it with you and Will at Will's old apartment down in the village. But
Yeah.
I liked being able to come in on a topic when I had a lot of experience or a really cool story, and just and just hashing out a great idea. So I hope that you are going to continue that when you're able to.
Yeah, Zeros on Heroes went on a hiatus. I need to restructure. It was a branding thing, but man, the live show, Unsung Heroes, was so much fucking fun to do, but it was a lot of at a certain point. So I started it with Will, and then when
Will,
he went
Will
on, he was like,
Watkins.
Will Watkins, yeah, not you, other Will. And when it was like, I can't do, he was like, I don't have time to be doing this every week. It was a weekly show on a Thursday. It had production. It wasn't just an open mic. It wasn't just a stand up show. It had production involved. It had a theme. It had promotion that had to get behind it. And it required an audience to be successful, it required
Yeah.
people to come out. Um, and when it was banging on all cylinders, that's the most fun I've ever had in comedy. That's the most fun I've ever had.
Yeah.
And it was in a tiny basement at the Creek in the Cave, you know, which my plan is to go back and do it again and to rebrand it and still do the live show in the way that we can. But
Hmm.
just hanging out with my friends every week was so fun. And then getting them to and forcing them to talk about dumb shit was my
Yeah.
favorite part.
Yeah.
And I loved being the host. I'm a hosty dude. I don't know if your listeners can tell. I talk for like 20 fucking minutes, but the point of when you're a host is to like I remember when we would get random.
You've got a lot of you've got a lot of charisma and a lot of you. Yeah, you've got a lot of great host energy. I imagine you would be a
Big
great
host
MC.
energy. That's right.
Yeah.
No, but the idea of the show when we did it, like you were like when you would come on, like when you were there, you would come on and you would tell us like a story about your whatever the topic was, because the topic would just be the starting point.
Yeah.
So for the listener, it was basically a live open mic talk show where I was the host, and in its final form, I was the host. I would bring up randos from the crowd. We had a core
Yep.
group of people who would come out every week, and some of my best friends were I made there, you know, and they
Yeah.
would come and they would and we would the topic of the day would usually be current events related, something like a movie coming out, like when the Avengers were coming out, then we'd have some sort of Avengers topic. When it was like Westworld, we did a cowboy thing. When it was, Jurassic Park, we talked about dinosaurs and shit. Godzilla, the kaiju battle. I'm seeing them all in my Facebook memories now, and I'm having like flashes of like that nostalgia, like, oh,
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
awesome. And just like some of my favorite moments were when I really pushed for positivity in that room. I wanted things to be times of like when people were giving conflicting opinions about, it was all about pop culture nonsense. You can disagree about bullshit, but everybody's welcome to share their bullshit. Like there was very,
Right.
very, that was a big push for me. And it was very like intentional. So when we would get like a rando in there, like just some drunk or some person who was there watching a show upstairs or having some tacos and saw
Yeah.
what was going on, and they would come in and they're like, what are you guys talking about? And we're like, we're talking about the movie Hackers, and then
Yeah.
they would be
Yeah.
like, oh, and then like, come on up. And I would always welcome, and I made sure everybody was very like welcoming. That to me, I remember someone was there, was, a lady comic who said that she's like felt welcome there. And I was like, that made me super happy, because it was also during the time of last couple of years of like very strong male anti women sentiments going around in the comedy community, and then like
Yeah. There
Me
was a lot
Too
of.
and a lot of stuff
Hmm.
going on. And then they were and even the Creek had issues with acceptance and like censorship and ideas about what should be censored and what should not, free
Yeah.
speech and
Yeah.
all that stuff. But they still felt welcome in my room, and I always prided myself on that. And it was so much fun to just like hang out with my friends and goof off and talk about random shit. And it was also a lot of work, because then it involves the production side of things. I
Hmm.
was recording, hosting, doing the tech with the music. I was doing it all at the same time, and
Yeah.
it felt like I was trying to keep plates spinning. The spinning the plates on the sticks.
Oh yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. That's how I feel all the time on here. Like when I get someone that I like really like, when I get somebody that I'm like, oh, I'm so surprised they're on my show, and then something isn't working right before I hit record. I'm like, oh, here we
Yeah,
go. It's like I
Tech issues were the bane of my existence with that fucking podcast. I like everyone, but that's the thing. Going back full circle to what we were talking about before. Now you're seeing like these people at home, these rich and famous people who have an entire team around them that are not working right now. Like all of the crew on the Tonight Show, I would imagine, is not working. You know what I mean? Like they're not doing anything, and then they're watching the show happening without them, and the show like suffers. Like you could do so much good stuff from your house with just like a tiny bit of prep work, and watching them struggle through all of it is like almost like vindication. It's like
uh-huh.
I was doing that with no budget, bitch. I was doing that with no money, motherfucker. I was doing that with free apps and the skin of my teeth. Sheer grit. I made that shit sound good. I scrimped and saved for a Zoom H6n recorder. Fuck you. You know, like,
Oh, dude, I know exactly what you mean.
you know
It's
what I
like,
mean?
oh, how are you doing without your fancy studio and your multi-camera setup?
Yeah,
We're
yeah. You
on
got someone else answering all those questions and handling all the problems for you. Now do it yourself, motherfucker.
exactly.
Self-made man, my ass.
Yeah, I feel the same way
I'm
about
not that
everyone that
angry.
in.
I'm really not that angry.
I know, and on a joking, angry note, it's like everyone who was like at an Ivy League school is like, oh, guess what? You're all are going to Phoenix University online now. You're all
Yeah,
on
yeah.
our level.
Yeah. Did you get you got your degree in 2021? Oh, so that was like 1 year where you were just doing online stuff like every other poor person? Oh, guess you're not getting this job at Starbucks or whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
I was like, oh, you've got a degree in filmmaking. I guess what? I learned everything you did, and I just used masterclass.
Khan Academy. If listeners go, you can literally learn anything on Khan Academy, KHAN. It's they you learn whatever the hell you want. There's so many free resources that you can like there's actual like MIT courses available online for free. You don't have to do any like that's the whole illusion. The illusion of the structures of the I'm going to start getting on my like soapbox of like we need the power to the people, overthrow, the proletariat or whatever.
Yeah. Well, there is a lot of very helpful information. Like I don't know about you, but I taught myself how to podcast through YouTube and Google.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know how to do a mix minus or what the best like $150 audio interface was. I learned all that stuff. I figured out all that stuff.
I like you not only that, but like I don't know if I mentioned earlier, I'm an essential worker, but they don't pay me that much. So try
Mm-hmm.
doing you can literally do all of it with zero budget. There's so much free shit out there. It's fascinating. It's fascinating to me how like you like right now, any show that is on TV right now, even like movies that you're watching have been produced with the same kind of shit that you have on your fucking phone. You can edit
Oh
on your
yeah.
iPad. You can edit on whatever, yeah, it's going to take long and it's going to be, but if you have like whatever's in your brain, the tools are literally free to do whatever you want. Honestly, if you want to record a broadcast like they do on, like the John Oliver shit or whatever, you have OBS. OBS is a free source, a free broadcasting source that records video for you, and you just
Mm-hmm.
need a way to get it in there. You have like teleprompter software on your iPad that you can do, and you can just read a teleprompter, write your shit, and give it to the iPad. You can literally make camera mounts out of a 2x4, and it reduces shake. You can
Yep.
like there's if you like the whole idea that this is shown that there's like, yeah, money makes things easier, and having access to like the professionals of course is going to make things easier, but that doesn't mean you can't do a thing you
Yeah.
know
Yeah. Exactly. And this is something I always come back to as well because I've listened to lots of podcasts about podcasting from people who are like, oh well, when can I start monetizing? And then I just go like, ha 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 ha. Ha.
Never.
When you're getting
Never mind.
bare minimum when you're getting 10,000 downloads an episode on the regs, then maybe you can talk about advertising. But here's the thing: if you love a thing and you start doing a thing and you love it, that's what got me through the early days when I was getting like 10 listeners and they were all friends of the person I was talking to.
If you're doing it for the listeners, listener, that one guy that listens to my podcast. Like I would joke about it all the time, but like I would always joke around that, like, oh, don't want to make our listeners mad. The dozen of listeners out there that are going to be upset or whatever.
Yeah.
But like the whole point of these podcasts when they start out, if you don't already have like a marketing blitz planned, it's just to hang out with whoever you're talking to, or it's just to get your thoughts down onto a recorded medium. It's for you to do a thing. You know what I mean? It has not like you if you start doing it for the listeners, the product will not be as good when you get the listeners, or you may never get the listeners because the product's not as good. Like your show has been like interesting to me because of who you interview.
Oh,
Like
really?
you run a wide gamut of people that you interview, and it's literally just the only through line that I can see through all your guests is that this person is interesting, right? Like that's
Kinda,
like
yeah.
I want to talk to them, you know?
That's more or less that's more or less it. Yeah. It's either someone that like bare minimum I find the person interesting, or like I bet they've got some, I bet they have some stories, or I bet I could glean something from them. Like at its core, this is my a better way that I found to connect with people than I ever could just in regular social settings.
Sure.
Maybe even through being on stage, because even like being on stage, there's a certain performance like screen that like wall that
Yeah,
kind of comes up.
you're on the stage and they are not.
Yeah,
Or you're on the stage at your time and then they're on the stage at their time. So it's like you're not like you don't get to and then when you're off stage there is that interaction, that doesn't exist.
sure.
But who has been your biggest like holy shit, man, I can't believe I'm just chit-chatting with this guy or girl.
Whew. There have been a couple. I would say I would definitely say my recent episode with Jared Reddick from Bowling for Soup. That was pretty surreal
Oh
because I
yeah,
listened to that
that was
album
awesome.
because I listened to that album all the time when it came out. I was I was an early
Yeah,
fan of that band, and I had seen them live, and uh, the guys from Anti-Flag, that was another one where I was just I can't believe
right.
I can't believe this is happening. um,
It's so I think comedy prepares you for kind of that sort of thing because you'll be doing a show somewhere and then some big name or medium name or whatever, or someone who's above you in standing will then like show up and work some material out literally doing what you're doing. So you get used to interacting with someone who's above you in some way
yeah,
on on the reg, like, oh, we're just the same, we're just doing the same thing, my jokes worked and their jokes did. I mean, think about that. Like, oh, it's like, oh man, I got a laugh from that crowd and they, they're still working on it, whatever, but that how for one moment we were equals, you know.
yeah, and
And then when you're interviewing people and on a podcast with them, it brings that humanity to these people that you got. Like when I got to I got press credentials to Comic-Con, that was a huge deal for me, like I got to
yeah,
interview like Dr. Michio Kaku, who is a science advisor. He's that futurist. Have you ever, who he's like
yeah,
he's like
that
a
name sounds
futurist
familiar.
scientist. And he writes all these books on lofty things. And I was just kind of like, this guy's fucking a genius and he's smart. And he was just chit chatting with me. We were just hanging out. It was so cool. So cool. But being in comedy, you're reminded of someone you admire, their humanity. You're reminded of that
Yeah,
so many times that I feel like it's good for like, it's good to it makes for good interviews when you can separate yourself from like, so tell me about your favorite perform, you're one of my heroes, you just go like, oh, you like this sort of thing, well tell me some other inspirational things about you, and well, what's this about you, and oh, where would you grow up, you talk to them as people.
absolutely. And I especially think if anyone is wants to podcast, like just having being curious is the best attribute that you can have. If you have a base level of curiosity, that's going to get you through anything. I wanted to ask you before we get out here, Mike,
Yeah,
because we've talked about plans. Do you have any? Do you have any? I normally would say we got anything we can coming up we can plug, but it is slightly different now. Do you have any like projects that you're working on outside of being a
yeah, I
hero and
mean, it's
everything?
hard to say. I was working on a Dungeons and Dragons show that I was trying to put
Mm-hmm.
together. It might actually. I'm again. It's. I would rather do it in person. There's something about recording across the internet that you lose something. But um, Just go. The Zeros on Heroes will be coming back. So if you go to Zeros on Heroes on any podcasting, any podcast directory, zerosonheroes.com. Or go follow me at Mike Mercadal on stuff. There's a tons of back catalog on there that you can listen to, and there's a lot of like you can see the progressive growth, and then the two separate show changes, like with the in studio episodes versus the live one. And go back and listen to some of those fun live ones, man. Unsung Heroes, like it's hard to pinpoint which ones were. It was just so much content and so many laughs had, and such a fun community of like regulars, and it was just so much
Yeah.
fun to do. Like if you want to go back and hear some of my like just like my most joyous times, you can go that. And if you subscribe, you'll be there when the new ones start popping up. In fact, there might be there might be some updates coming to the Zeros on Heroes feed very soon.
Awesome.
But keep an eye on it, because that's also like a place for like where I put pilot for different projects that I do.
Uh-huh.
And there's a go subscribe, and then you'll see it when it pops up.
Awesome, man. Well, dude, it's been so great getting to talk to you again. Let's talk
Yeah, man.
again more frequently off mic. Or I'm always up for if you see a random funny video. I always like
Brother,
hearing that.
it's been that's the new goal. It's not about like, it's just to reach out. I'm not trying to put everyone, like, because for a while, like sooner or later you start to feel like the only time you talk to people is like on a performative level.
Yeah.
I don't want that for this right now. If you're a comedian listening to this, like, just go text somebody. They'll be happy to hear from you. You know what I mean? Like, just go talk to people. Like, message someone. Hey, you up for it? And then FaceTime. Go look at someone in the eye. Oh, before we go, postscript. I cannot stand this. This is a huge pet peeve of mine, and this has become so much more prevalent in the time of quarantine.
Mm-hmm.
When you are talking to someone on the video chat, look at the fucking camera, not your screen. Look at your camera. For the love of God. If you're FaceTime, it's right up there by the earphone. If you're FaceTime, for fuck's sake, look at the camera, not the screen. And if they're doing the same, you will look like you're making eye contact. You don't need to see what you look like. You're just there. Please make eye contact with the camera so that it looks like you're looking at the other person.
Exactly, which is what me and Mike are doing right now. So
right now, like when I'm talking, I look at the camera. When you're talking, I look at the screen so I can see you looking at the camera, and then back and forth, back and forth. Oh, it's been driving me crazy. Oh God, I needed to get that off my chest. Oh my goodness.
Well, essential information from Mike Mercadal, comedian, essential worker, and one of my closest friends. It was great to talk to you, man. And
I love you, buddy, man. Be safe, and tell Chelsea that we have to plan another chain restaurant dinner party when all this is over. Outback Steakhouse would be my choice, but we can also do one of the better restaurants.
Okay, I'm leaning towards Outback Steakhouse. I will accept a Cheesecake Factory as another possibility.
Yes,
and I can't wait.
I accept.
I can't wait for that day, man. Great talking to you, Mike.
All right, man. Can't wait to see everybody in person. I can't wait to see you.
All right, talk to you soon, man.
Peace.
Mike is a great dude, a really funny guy, and he's doing really important work right now. And I'm glad he recovered and that he's still doing that work. So, Mike, I look forward to attending another NYCFC game in the future when this is over, and doing some comedy, and you doing your podcast again. So thank you for your time, man. It was great to talk with you, and thank you guys again for listening. That is our show for today. So if you enjoyed this and feel like you have a friend who might enjoy listening to this podcast as well, I have over 160 episodes that you can enjoy. That should get you through a couple days of quarantine. We're available wherever you get your podcasts. We're on Apple, Stitcher, and Spotify. You can get a free month of Stitcher Premium if you sign up with the promo code AWESOME in all caps. And I also want to give a shout out to my supporter on Patreon at the awesome producer level, Mary Beth Mooney. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your support. And to everyone who supports me on Patreon, it really means a lot. to me. And if you guys want to check out what I'm doing over there, I have you can go to patreon.com/awesomedisaster. You can get my solo music EP months early. You can check out some bonus podcasts, some custom playlists that I've been making, and I really appreciate that you guys are listening. And if you are hearing this, I hope you stay home as much as possible, wear a mask when you can, and that you are generally taking all the precautions necessary, because that's how we're going to get through this thing. I've said that a couple times, but I feel like it's a sentiment worth repeating. So thank you guys again for being here, and I will see you guys next time between Awesome and Disaster. Stay safe, everybody.